Hello, it's Jeannie, my chair, and my chair. How are you? I hope you are well. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is an ASMR channel. If you're wondering what it is, this crazy channel you've landed on where someone is flipping through a book and talking quietly and slowly. That's what it is. And if you just landed here from some rabbit hole, welcome. And for everybody else, welcome as well. Make sure you're still subscribed. Oh my gosh, they do those purges. So once in a while, I'm going to remind you to check that you're subscribed. And if you aren't, hit the subscribe button. Today's video is sponsored by a company I'm very happy to introduce you to once again, Nurx, N-U-R-X. Nurx is a digital healthcare platform that makes it easy to get expert healthcare. You work with a licensed medical provider to tackle skin concerns like calming acne breakouts and dark spots or hyperpigmentation, fine lines and wrinkles. It's as simple as sharing your skin history and a few photos. Nurx offers retinoid treatments, which are up to 20 times more powerful than the over-the-counter retinoids, and yes, it is a well-known powerhouse. The Nurx team of dermatology experts guide you through your skincare journey, and they can adjust your medication strength to ensure that you are getting the most out of your treatments as your needs evolve. Thank you to Nurx for sponsoring this video. Taking control of your healthcare starts here. Go to nurx.com/Jeannie B ASMR. That's nurx.com/Jeannie B ASMR. Again, thank you to Nurx for today's support. Okay, so like I said from my last video, this is kind of a three-part video. The one that was done just before this was all American ads from the 70s, and today is all American ads from the 60s. And I believe I have one more on order, the 80s, so it doesn't matter which order you watch it in. So anyway, I hope this is relaxing for you and that you can get a glimpse of this era through the advertising. It's really interesting, I think, on how we go from the 60s to the 70s. A lot of changes, a lot of new technology. There's more of a marketing push in things, in foods, technology, movies, things like that. And marketing, as you can see through these ads, is really on the rise. Things that are faster for, in terms of more convenient, being pushed. For the 60s, which was my 60s and 70s, my major growing up time, I remember a lot of these ads, but I was younger. So the 70s ads kind of resonate more with me. But I do recall some of this. The 60s were coming off of the 50s, go figure, where things were more proper. There was, it was still newly after the war. Affluence is just starting. And, but the 60s are starting to break down some social things. And so for me, the ads that I remember about the 60s were for cereals, toys, certain toys, appealing to the cartoon age. And so some of the older ads that say for a car or something like that, I don't particularly relate to. My mom and dad would have, but for me it was kids, watching them eat some newfangled, fun, probably unhealthy food or some new toy. And, in the 60s, well, where I grew up, just because we saw something on TV or in any kind of ad did not mean we could get that. We could want it all we wanted, but we didn't have the means to just get a new toy. We would, at Christmas time, make lists of things we wanted, but we were always happy with what we got. And we might have gotten one or two things that were on the list, and that's it. We didn't say, oh, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. We were happy with what we got. Our parents worked hard. And my friends were the same. No one was rich. I didn't know any rich people. I didn't know any kids who just got what they wanted because they asked for it or demanded it. It didn't work like that. We collected bottles, Coke bottles, soda bottles, they were glass, and we'd return them. And we'd walk down to the store, turn in the bottles, get maybe 25 cents, and we'd either buy some candy immediately, immediate gratification, or we would save that up and, or even pool our money to get some cool new toy, my brother and I. And so what we got, we appreciated it a lot because we knew our parents worked hard. We worked hard. I mean, the store, as kids, we could go walking for a long time. I think the store that we returned bottles to was maybe 2 miles away. And, we were just little kids taking off, but that's the way it was, And it was great days. It was great days. I remember walking to the store. And I'll tell you a story before I get in to showing you these ads from the 60s. And I've told this story before. So for some of you, you may remember this, and others you may not remember, or you may not have heard this. For us to go, we had 2 stores we could go to. One was like we called it Speedy Mart. It wasn't named Speedy Mart, but that's what we called it. And this is growing up in San Jose, east side San Jose, California. And so that was about 2 miles from where we lived. There was another store called Ben Franklin, and they had more. The Speedy Mart was like a 7-Eleven type of a quick market. But the Ben Franklin had all kinds of awesome stuff. They had a huge candy selection. They had like little gadgets, for a penny or a nickel that we loved. They had clothes. They had all kinds of things, housewares. It was a department store, Ben Franklin. Do any of you remember the Ben Franklin stores? I don't know if they're still in business or not. Anyway, there were 2 ways to get to Ben Franklin. The long way around, and I think that had to be 3 miles. Or we could cut through an orchard, Farmer Joe's orchard. And, I mean, he had no trespassing signs up all over, but it was a short way to Ben Franklin. So, Saturday mornings, we got a quarter for an allowance. So we had a decision to make. do we cut through the orchard or do we go all the way around? Now, the problem with cutting through the orchard was if he was out and he saw you, he would chase you. And he had a rock salt gun. And he would shoot you with the rock salt gun. This is the 60s. Now, you couldn't get away with that. But on a hot summer day, it was shorter than going all the way around and all the way back. It just took so long. I'm gonna map that and figure out how long that really was. Anyway, very often we decided to take our chances and cut through the orchard. And we would go running, hide behind a tree, hide behind a tree. Now, there were several kids in our neighborhood, and we never wanted to go as a group cutting through the orchard because it was too hard to hide. My brother and I, Brian and I, we could manage. But once in a while, he would be out there, and he'd have his salt rock gun, and he'd start coming after us. And we were younger and fast, and we could run. But one time, my brother got pelted in his jeans, and he had holes in his jeans from the rock salt. I know, crazy. But you know what? It's one of my fondest memories. Yeah, I mean, consequences. We learned the consequences of our actions. So, anyway, it's just the way it was. If we ran home, crying about it, my parents would just say, well, you know better. So, if you're doing that and you know better, shame on you. Too bad, so sad. So, I think that's kind of what has helped form my attitude about consequences to actions. Sometimes they're fast and sometimes they hurt. Anyway, think twice before you go traipsing through private property. In the opening of this book, I want to read something to you about the 60s and advertising. It says, if the advertisements in this volume were the sole artifact that a historian used to examine and analyze the turbulent 60s, a picture of American culture would emerge that bears scant resemblance to social and political realities of the time. Where are the blacks, Latinos, or Asians? Viewed from this vantage point, the 60s had no civil rights movements, no Vietnam War, no sex or drugs or rock and roll. The advertisements here exhumed from the crypts of Madison Avenue as mummified in the mass magazines of the day were sanitized, homogenized, and cauterized, which is not to say that what they did not have style, taste, or humor, or that they do not represent the zeitgeist or in a jaundiced way, through whatever means tolerable within the parameters of truth in advertising doctrines, which is a concept akin to allowing the acceptable amounts of rat hair in food. Acceptable amounts of rat hair. What's more, by the early 60s, post-war Americans were happily conditioned to believe anything that the mass media put forth, and advertising was embraced without question or hesitation, viewed even as entertainment. During the 60s, advertising evolved from its primordial emphasis on lengthy, turgid texts to snappy, witty headlines and picture ensembles through a method known as the big idea. The term connotes both a radical shift from the past and a distinctly American genre of creative promotion. Wow. This is a long article, so I won't go into it all. During the 60s, the big idea made advertising decidedly cleverer, funnier, and more enjoyable than ever before. So, anyway, it's a very interesting read. And the interesting thing about this book, even though it's smaller, is that it's in several languages. That intro is in German, Spanish, Italian, I think this is Japanese, and that's it. So now, let's get to it. I'll put the camera over and start showing you some of these cool ads from the 1960s, and of course giving you my thoughts and opinions and reactions. I haven't really looked through here. All I did was that. So it'll be seen right along with you. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here we go. All American ads, 1960s. And unlike the 1970s version that I did before this video, this is much smaller and thinner. I didn't even notice that when I ordered them. Okay. Interesting. The 60s had a lot of futuristic thinking. What will life be like in the future? You know, like the Jetsons or, Lost in Space. I loved that show. And here, I don't know if this is a house that's under the sea or a pool that just surrounds the house. Can you imagine the wear and tear on the seals right here? But they'll be in watching TV and probably drinking some gin or vodka. So the cover is from 1965. That. Okay. And page 1. Smirnoff. Okay. I'm really glad you guys like these looking back, because I do. Going back to your childhood should be a nice memory. Okay, and this is, so we're going into alcohol and tobacco. See, again, it's space oriented because this is what it would be like in space, bringing, your, what is this, vodka out to space, having a drink. The 60s, as I talked about in the 70s book, the 70s has had much more diversity, and the 60s was like pretty lily white and very, sterile. And you didn't see any people of color, different ethnicities, races, things like that. So to see this is really kind of rare for the 60s. And it's kind of nice that I'll bet these guys were breaking a mold Looks like a dad and maybe 3 sons or a brother-in-law or something like that. You know, good-looking guy sitting around having a beer. And then, okay, so Schlitz. Schlitz, I don't know if they still have Schlitz, but Schlitz malt liquor. I wonder who that horse is. Huh, I can't tell. I don't see a year because of how it was cut here, poorly cut. But it was the Kentucky Derby of May, but 1960. So I could probably figure out who that was. The fashion style was very Twiggy-ish. Twiggy, if you don't know, was a very popular model. She was stick thin, she had great big eyelashes and lots of dark eyeliner. And women wanted to be Twiggy thin, of course. I love the bathing suits of the 60s. I remember mine. I remember 2 of them. One was green, like this bikini here, and it was green with light green with white polka dots. And my other one was red, and it was a one-piece, and I swear it felt like wool, you know, thick, clothy wool. And it sagged, you know, around my butt. And it's the only one I had. Okay, Lucky Strike. Show me a filter cigarette that really delivers taste and I'll eat my hat. And if I were a man, I'd smoke White Owl Miniatures. Oh, it's a cigar. Okay. All right, Chesterfield cigarettes. I don't think they make these anymore either. I don't know. I have no idea. And let's see, Terryton. Okay, us Terryton smokers would rather fight than switch. And it shows her with a black eye like she just got popped in the eye. It makes them aggressively loyal. Okay, Smirnoff. Now, I can't tell if this is a woman of color or not, but she isn't that, you know, blue-eyed blonde hair gal, so it's weird that it's starting. This is 1966, so, you know, there is some kind of, you know, breaking into that field of expanding. Not a lot. Okay, ooh, the cars, automobiles. I have a huge judgment here. I hate bullfighting and I hate matadors, and I don't hate many things, but to me, it's just torturing an animal, slowly torturing an animal to death. And I'm sorry for stating that, but whenever you hear in the news that a bull jumped out and went running after somebody or gored a matador, I'm happy about it. I know that's terrible, but still, what they do to the bulls is terrible. So this is a 1967 Oldsmobile. Wow. Oh, look at this. Again, that's as long as a house. These are like boats, kind of like the 70s. These are Cadillacs. I would love to have one of these now. Couldn't park anywhere because, you know, most parking lots don't have long spots like for these. Wow. Okay, 61 Plymouth, Pontiac. Oh, these are cool cars. Now, oh my goodness, look at this, the Scout. Who makes this? International. Aha. Wow, a convertible. No seat belts necessary. Oh, there's my first car. Except mine was yellow and it had a black top. Mine was a 66 Mustang. This is a 67, but they were similar. Oh man. Yeah, and someone asked me, was it a 6-cylinder or 8? And it was an 8-cylinder. Look at that. Okay. This looks like a Speed Racer's car, the Mach 5. Does anybody remember that? Coup d'etat. Oh, wow. I love that. Oh my gosh. I would love to have one of these cars now. It's a Mercedes. I have to tell you, we had a Mercedes. Now, we didn't have a lot of money, but somehow my dad had an old Mercedes, and it was a real classic one with all the rounded things. And one day, my brother and I were maybe 5 and 6, and the Mercedes was in the garage, and we decided that we were going to shine it up for my dad. And we found a can of varnish, and we found a paintbrush, and we painted on varnish all over the car. You know, I remember my dad's face when he came out. He was just petrified. Just his face just went to stone. I don't remember anything after. The cool thing about my parents is they wouldn't have like spanked us for something like that. You know, they would have checked our intention, and we would have been scolded and talked to, and you know, but we wouldn't have been punished per se. But I do remember painting my dad's, varnishing the Mercedes. Avanti, I don't know. The maximum car over 160 miles per hour under $5,000. Studebaker. 160. Who's gonna go 160? Wow. Can you imagine? I mean, this isn't Germany. The fastest we've ever gone on the Autobahn, and you can't go long stretches on the Autobahn going at a super high speed because you come to a town or there's a speed control or something. But the fastest I clocked my husband going was 250 kilometers per hour. And we were in a Volvo, and we were flying like I can't remember what it was. Anyway, somebody came up on our butt and we had to move over. So, and you do on the Autobahn, you get over. The left lane is not for driving unless you're going warp speed. That was fun, but I don't like driving that fast. Too much can happen and go wrong. Wow, look at that pink Cadillac. Wow. 1962. Okay, what is this? Some kind of Pontiac? Volkswagen. Oh, look at the Jeep Wagoneer. That's a great family car. You could pile in a whole bunch of kids. Okay, again, very outer space themed. So this is Ford. You know, here's a kid with a glass dome on his head and a little space suit. A Rambler. Wow, those are nice. Look at that electric blue interior. When I started driving gas stations, for those of you who are older, you'll remember this, but they weren't called gas stations, they were called service stations. And when you pulled in, a guy came out, he pumped your gas, he washed your windows, and he checked your oil. And maybe the air pressure on your tires if you wanted. And that was all in the cost of the gas. And then I remember when self-serve kind of became a thing, and it was like, so the bay for, full service would be over here, and the bays for self-service would be over there. And they started differentiating by a few cents per gallon. Oh, look at, these are auto seats, automobile seats. That's how comfortable they are, that you could have them in your living room. Oh, wow, the 66 Fairlane here. Wow, this is a Marlin. Okay, motorcycles. Oh my gosh, I love this car. It was the world's smartest smaller car. It was a Rambler Metropolitan for 2 people. Our friends in Germany still have, and it's from the 60s, a go-go car. I think it's called a go-go car. And it's so cute. It's so little. It's probably that big. Go-go-mobile. Go-go-mobile. That's what it's called. Okay, business and industry. See, how satellites can give us low-cost emergency telephone service. Yeah, I remember reading books about space. There was one book, it was called You Will Go to the Moon, I think, or you, what is it? I still have it too. Something like that. You will go to the moon. It was a big deal, that space push. IBM typewriter, electric. I learned to type on a non-electric, and then you learned it in school. You started taking typing in like 7th grade, and oh, look at this adding machine. Look at that. I learned that too, and I was fast. At my peak, I was typing 80 words a minute. Oh, that's so cool. But you didn't have autocorrect or anything. When you made a mistake, you had to backspace and either white out or use a piece of like this white tape that would pull the ink off or cover the ink in white, and then you had to retype it. Yeah, so if you made a mistake in a typing test, you just continued on, but they deducted your count by how many mistakes you made. So when you typed, you had to be accurate as possible, as accurate as possible. Okay, steel. That's what this is about. Okay. Bethlehem steel. Oh, look at the green shag carpet. Oh, that is very classic 60s. Naugahyde. Again, steel. This is a steel ad. Okay, what is this? We're still building airplanes around people. Okay, what is this about? Oh, McDonnell Douglas, before Boeing took it over. Look at this telephone. Okay, space. Okay, let's see. Now producing electricity from the power of the atom. And that's basically nuclear energy. And I think nuclear energy can be a clean source. I just don't know. You know, I don't know anything about it and the safety of it, but I know it's clean and cheap, and so that's it. Okay. Very psychedelic, you know, I remember these psychedelic colors and designs. This says, happiness is happiness. I love that. It's like love is love. Very popular, these spiral things. A very modern house. You know, when they say mid-century modern, you know, this is kind of a mid-century modern type house, you know, 50s, 60s. We had a TV very similar to this. Let me show you. Except it did not have legs, and it was a great big console, and you had to turn it on and wait like 5 minutes for the tubes to warm up. and it had a big heavy buzzing sound as it would start to warm up, and once it did, then you got a picture. Yeah, again, you know, a lot of this modern structure, a lot of glass, mid-century modern. I didn't know anyone who had a house like this, but I suppose there were some. Oh, here we go. I like this little portable TV. That's kind of like the one my mom and dad had in their bedroom, but theirs was only black and white. Yeah, I never saw one that small. And they were expensive. Nothing, you know, nowadays, TVs are cheap. But all the excitement of color in the brightest, most true-to-life RCA Victor color TV ever, starting at $400, $399.95, so $400. That's a lot of money for 1964. Let me just look at the inflation calculator and tell you what that is. Okay. Inflation calculator. So you put in the year, so that would be 1964, and the amount was, we'll just call it $400 because it's a nickel off. $400. Calculate. That's like $4,000. Over $4,000 for a TV. Okay, so people think, oh, $400, that was cheap. In those days, $400 was a lot. So, look at this nudist colony. They're all watching TV. Oh, how funny. Okay, this is a very abstract house. Perched on a cliff. Okay, reel-to-reel tape player. And here's a stereo, a Sony stereo. I'm still reeling over that. That $400 is almost, you know, over $44,000. Wow. Now, long-haired hippie freaks, that's what these guys would have been considered, you know, because in the 60s you had the straight-laced look here, you know, and then you had the long-haired hippie freaks. You know, my dad would just be like, oh, look at that, cut your hair. And yet, great music was starting to come out at this time, I think. Oh, Frank Zappa. Look at what's a beautiful girl like you doing with a heavy-duty detergent like this? The whole wash, of course. I love it. Oh, that is so 60s. Very mod. She's putting on her eyelashes. Okay. Birthday parties. Okay, Cal-Can. I remember Cal-Can dog food. Wow. How your kids can have a happier Halloween using Scotch tape. You made your own masks. I'll tell you something. When Halloween came around, we made our own costumes. I would raid my mom and dad's closets for things, but we didn't just go out and buy any old thing in the 60s, you know. They had them, the plastic masks, and a stupid, you know, jumpsuit you'd put on. But we made our own, you know, we did our own dressing up for Halloween. And just about every house had a set of encyclopedias. Here's Google of the 1960s. And they were expensive. And you would get on a payment plan. Your parents, not me, my parents, got on a payment plan for hours. And I think we even had one. They got it used, like a year or two out of date, which is fine. Okay, Brunswick. What is this? Oh, bowling balls. Bowling balls. Oh, my mom or dad would take us to the bowling alley as kids, just as little kids, and drop us off. And we had a dime to use the telephone and call when we needed a ride home. And we'd hang out at the bowling alley and play, and we'd have a burger, a shake, a bowl. We had a great time. Okay. United Van Lines movers. Water skiing. I didn't learn how to water ski until the 70s, and that's because I went out on, with friends on somebody else's boat. We never had a boat. We had a rowboat that my dad took fishing, but we never had a motorboat like this. Oh goodness, look at that. The one we had at our house was a smaller portable one, and instead of this you just put the bag over your head. It was like a plastic cap. You put the cap over your curlers and then turned it on. And there was no temperature control. It would just get hot and you'd have to take it off. And wow. Oh, look at, it's saying that someday you'll be able to see people when you talk to them. This is 1967, y'all. 1967. This is outside the box right there. That's so cool. Okay, clocks, GE. Okay, what is this? Posters. Oh yeah, psychedelic posters. Okay, this is like a bag you could carry. All right, how to get strong, muscles. I remember my brother bought one of these. I don't know what it was. Some dumb vitamin and a pamphlet on how to become strong because, he was skinny. Turn on Indian summer to brave a chilly night. Oh, electric blankets. Okay, movies, entertainment. Okay. Oh, the birds. Have you ever seen The Birds? Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds? You should see it. Tippi Hedren. Yeah, that's a classic. Anything with Alfred Hitchcock is a classic. And I think this would have been, was it Raquel Welch? The space age adventuress whose sexploits are among the most bizarre ever seen. Oh my goodness. Romeo and Juliet. Mutiny on the Bounty with Marlon Brando. Elvis movies were very popular. So Elvis and Nancy Sinatra. Okay. Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham. And the Doors. Oh God, I love them so much. From 68. Interesting, it says Country Joe and the Fish. That's wrong. I know my guys. Oh, look at little, what is this, a campsite? No, fashion and beauty. Okay, fashion. Oh, I dig these pants big time. And look at him with his long knee-high socks. Career Club shirts. Oh, Sammy Davis Jr. The Nehru suit. Oh, those were really popular in the late 60s and early 70s. The Nehru suit. The California Pinkapades, Max Factor pinks. Yeah, oh, look at that hairstyle. I don't know. What does that look like to you? Looks like a mollusk or something. Wow. Okay, very modern, all the polka dots. This gives me a headache just looking at it. Oh my goodness, look at these bras. These are called bullet bras. Look at that. And this is not, do you know who this is? Oh my goodness. That is Sharon Tate. It doesn't say it, but that's Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate was married to, was it Roman Polanski? Yes, it was Roman Polanski. And she was murdered by the Manson family in, I think, what was it? It was the late 1960s. And I remember the Manson families. That scared the dickens out of me because it was on the news. Yeah, and she was pregnant. Oh, it was horrible. Okay, let's keep this nice and comforting. Oh, wow. I loved this style back then. I remember wearing a pair of pants like this. Oh, that is so cool. I would wear that today. Okay, the Catalina Man. Kreslin acrylic. This is when plastic clothing started coming out. Another Maidenform bra. $1.59. Let's get that inflation calculator. What was $8.59? Oh, and this is 1963. So usually you guys are so good about looking these up if I ask you. Okay, so $1.59, calculate. It is $16.29 for that bra. Okay, food and beverage. Oh, look at how cute. Like a prom or something. Pancakes. Okay, and here is where the push for margarine started. My mom tried buying it, and my dad said, no way. You know, I haven't had a good pancake in a long time. I've really been watching carbs and not eating things like this a lot. And it's been maybe 6-8 months since I've had pancakes. That looks so good. My stomach's gonna start growling now. Royal Crown Cola. It started getting called RC Cola later. Oh, Tab. Now, Tab was a diet drink, and I bought into the whole diet thing because it was just everywhere. And I think it tasted horrible. It tasted like battery acid. And I've never really tasted battery acid, but if I can imagine it, that's what it would taste like, in my humble opinion. Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper. And 7-Up. And Tang. I love Tang, but my mom rarely bought it. Okay, Hills Brothers Coffee. Dole Pineapple. Oh my God. Look at this. So it's, oh. I swear this looks like something my cat retched up. So it's got cream corn with the hot dogs and like a Velveeta type cheese. I mean, it could probably taste really good, but it looks kind of pukey. Okay, this is, you drink a can of Metrical and you've got the nutrition of steak, potatoes, peas, and carrots. Wow, I don't remember that. Somebody's den, furniture and appliances. Not many people that I knew back in the day had a big den like this. The house I grew up in for the first 18 years was 1,090 square feet. It was a little 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And so, you know, this was like, looks like the size of the house practically. And I thought it was a big house. Patio furniture. Yeah, this is pretty awesome for back then. Okay, artwork, chairs. They're looking at chairs like they're art, pieces of art. Okay, now I have to tell you, we had this. And this pulled out. And that's pretty ingenious, you know? And you could push it back in. Ours was green. Yeah, but I don't think ours had 2 doors. I don't remember. And my mom never looked like that as she cooked. Look at how modern, how space age. I miss this. That was so cool. You could just push it in. That's cool. 1965. Okay. Air conditioning and heating, all electric. Okay, travel. TWA. Which is no longer in business. They went out. Oh, look at this. What they were called stewardesses back then. Now they're flight attendants. And back then they had to be a certain height, certain weight, and they got weighed before every flight. The head mistress or boss, whatever, she would weigh them. And if you were over, you got a warning. And if you didn't lose that pound or 2 or 3, you were fired. And you couldn't be married, and you couldn't be a mother. Braniff Airlines. Yeah. Sheraton Waikiki. You know what? I think I stayed there the first time. No, second time we went to Hawaii. Yeah, we actually stayed there. Seattle World's Fair, 1962. Again, everything was space age. Okay, PSA aisle seats, $13.50 while they last. So let's see, what is $13.50? And this is 1968. So let me put that year in. And that is $13.50. 0.50. Okay, let's calculate. That would have been $121. That is an 800% rate of inflation. Wow. Okay, that's it. That is it. And here's the reverse of that same kid bobbing around outside. Mom, Dad, let me in. I can't breathe. So that is it. I hope you like this series of All-American ads. And I've done the 70s, this is the 60s, and the 80s is coming up. Well, what'd you think? I still think, even despite the fact that it's kind of a sanitized way of advertising how they did that, for me, it's a walk down memory lane. It's kind of cool to go back, and especially knowing what I know now. But what was your favorite thing about it? I think for me, I love the color combinations, the 60s and 70s. And yeah, I think it's the colors, kind of that loud, bold, orange and green type thing. Well, that's it for today. I enjoyed sharing this with you, and I hope you enjoyed it. It's something to think about, even in today's ads that you see in magazines and TV, social media, definitely, because so much is an advertisement. These influencers. I do ads. Sponsorship, telling you about something. But there are a lot of social media things that I think drive young people, young girls, young guys, maybe even older ones, I don't know. And I think we need to remember, not everything you see is real. Not everything someone has is real. I was reading about how there was some supposedly very rich social media influencer, and she's showing herself on planes and all that, drinking, champagne and whatnot. And it turns out you can rent this part of a plane It's like a cutout, and you can sit in there for like an hour, and it's a couple $100, and you can pretend you're actually on getting on this plane, or so it's not real. So anyway, keep that in mind, especially if you're younger. And I'm not picking on the younger people. I just think that sometimes you're more influenced about what you should be or not be. And I want you to know that you are okay. You don't have to have everything out there that someone is pushing. You don't. Okay? You are okay as you are. You don't have to keep up with what everybody else is doing. You be you. You do you in your way, at your pace. Okay? And you are enough as you are. I promise you. So I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you for being here. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you very soon in the next video with another walk back into a different time. Bye for now.